this project, you'll need paper. Just like the regular computer paper is fine. You'll need a pencil. I'm using a mechanical pencil. An eraser, pencil crayons, or some other way to color your drawing. And I also have an assortment of different Sharpies and markers here. And I'm going to use some Posca markers later as well. So I'm going to start by mapping out my text or my word. Nothing is worse than doing some beautiful letters and completing a bunch of them and then realizing that the whole word isn't going to fit on the page. So here I'm using light pressure to write my word in a regular all caps block font. I'm writing the word hey with an exclamation mark. So now I'm using a little bit more pressure and I'm tracing around the guidelines that I just drew. I'm making sure to draw a line on either side of the guideline. I'm going to connect all the lines that I'm drawing together. And now I have a block letter. I'm going to repeat the process with the rest of the letters. And at this point you can erase your guidelines, just because it can get kind of confusing with a lot of different lines going on, so I like to erase them at this point. So next I'm going to start making the letters 3D. So I'm looking for corners on the letters. So here's a corner, here's a corner, here's a corner. So you can see kind of what I mean by corner. Now I'm going to draw a diagonal line out from each corner. But if my line would have been going behind the letter, I will not draw it, as you can see right there. I don't need to draw that line. You're going to want to choose a direction and stick with it. So I'm going down and to the left with this one. Now you're going to connect the diagonal lines together, following in the same direction that the letter is going. And now you have a 3D effect going on. You'll just keep repeating the process with all of the diagonal lines that you've drawn. And you're always trying to follow the same shape of the letter. Now we have our 3D effect. For the H, we're going to repeat the process for the remaining letters. I'm also trying to be consistent with the width of my 3D edge. Trying to make it the same all the way around the letter. Okay, now I'm going to try a longer word. I'm going to use more of a complex graffiti style font. So I am looking at my graffiti font reference booklet, but you can feel free to invent a style or a font of your own. So here I'm trying to write the word inspire. I'm using the same process as before. I'm writing guidelines with light pressure, and I'm just mapping the word out. After drawing 2 letters, I'm going to realize that this is actually not going to fit on the page. So I'm going to erase the N and I'm going to try again, and this time I'm going to make the letter slightly smaller so that I can fit all the letters on the page. And I am overlapping the letters as well, which is quite common for graffiti style murals. Okay, my guidelines are done, and now I'm gonna trace around the guidelines. I'm using a bit heavier pressure this time, and I'm making sure that I'm drawing a line on either side of the guideline. And this font is more of like a bubbly type font, so I'm trying to make that noticeable in the way that I'm tracing. So kind of using more rounder lines. So I'm erasing the guidelines just so that I don't have as many lines to pay attention to. And again, with the overlapping lines, it's adding a bit of complexity, so I'm just making sure that I can see which letter is behind which letter so that I can draw the appropriate lines that you would actually see. Alright, now my letters are done, and I'm going to erase the guidelines on all of the letters again so that my eye isn't getting confused. Okay, now for the 3D effect. So I'm gonna go up and to the right this time. So finding corners on the top part of the letters and drawing my diagonal line going up and to the right. And again, if my line would be behind the letter, like from this particular corner here, I'm not going to draw that line. So I'm going to continue drawing my diagonal lines. And again, because these letters are overlapping, there is an added level of complexity with that 3D edge that's on the letter. So just go slow and make sure that you're finding all the corners on the letters. Draw your diagonal lines going out. So now I'm going to connect my diagonal lines. And again, I'm following the same shape as the letter. And again, these are more rounded, bubbly letters. So I'm trying to mimic that shape with my 3D edge, tracing and connecting those diagonal lines, following the same shape as the letter. With complicated overlapping letters like this, it is really hard sometimes to see where the 3D edge of the letter would go. So make sure that you go slow and then use light pressure at all times during this process so that you can make changes if you need to. So now at this point I'm starting to see what portions of the letters are behind the other letters. And I'm starting to erase the portions of the letters that are going to be behind a different letter in order to add to the illusion that that letter is like underneath the other letter. So it's adding to the 3D effect even more. So now I'm done drawing my letters, and I'm going to use a Sharpie to trace around the letters. I'm mostly just doing this so that you guys can see the letters better, but it can be nicer to color something that's been traced with Sharpie already. So it's your choice if you want to outline with Sharpie or not. And now I'm done the outlining, and I'm going to use my eraser to erase any of the random extra lines that I want to get rid of for the coloring process later.